I want to welcome my special guest this morning, Elaine Bowes. Elaine, I hope I didn't murder your name this morning.
No, you didn't.
Welcome to the show. Let's start with you this morning. What 5 things are you thankful for?
What 5 things?
Yeah,
right.
5.
So,
yes, 5.
I must be thankful for, like for most people, good health.
Yes.
A really wonderful life, a wonderful family, wonderful children, a new grandson. Well, he's not so new. He's a year old now.
Woo-hoo.
And he's a joy, an absolute joy.
It's beautiful.
He's walking now. He's just started walking.
At 1? Wow.
Yes. Well, in fact, he started walking at 11 months.
Oh.
So, that's great. So, yes, I have a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah.
A lot to be thankful for.
I know, and thank you for sharing that. You know, I woke up this morning just feeling really grateful for life, for the gift of life. But specifically, yesterday I woke up with some thoughts and some questions for God. You know how we ask these questions? And I was even writing down the questions and asking God, and like, you know what, Father, this and that, and used specific words. And lo and behold, I log on to Instagram at some point, and everything I was saying to him and asking him, someone had put that in a post. I was like, no way, no.
And that's always the way, yeah.
Do you know, I was
that happens.
I was blown away completely, because I was like, so you're so mindful of the little details. So yes, thank you for sharing your gratitude this morning. Cindy Williams, good morning. She says, beautiful morning. Says, I'm at work. Oh, wow, you're at work and you're watching me. Wow, thank you so much. All right, we're just going to dive in right now. We're talking about the Pentecostal Community Bank, and Elaine is the head of marketing and communications at the bank. You've been with the bank since 2015. Talk us through the journey of Pentecostal Community Bank. Where did it start? How did it begin? It was a credit union before it transitioned to a bank. So talk us through that journey. Right.
So we are 45 years old.
45?
We were established in 1980 as a credit union. And I think the story of our founder tells everything about our core and our essence and who we are and why we exist. So we always tell this story. In 1955, a 17-year-old boy arrived here from Jamaica. When he was in Jamaica, he was part of the Anglican Church, very devout Anglican, and he went to a church, his local church, just at the end of his road. And he actually went there 3 times. Nobody really spoke to him very much. But at the end of the 3rd time he went there, the vicar came up to him and thanked him for coming, but asked him not to return.
Oh, no. Asked him not to return. Wow. I was going to say, how sweet of the vicar. Okay. I want to hear more.
Asked him not to come back. Right. And that happened to a lot of black people when they first migrated here from the Caribbean during those Windrush years. This was in 1955. It wasn't unusual. Many people had the same experience. But for him, it was the catalyst that eventually led him to found the Pentecostal Credit Union 25 years later. Because what he did in 1955, when that happened to him, he went home to the people he was sharing. He was sharing a house with a number of people in the house were his brother, family members, his brother, a couple of cousins, and other friends. And they said to him, don't worry about that, come with us. They were meeting in people's living rooms. They were Pentecostals. That's how the Pentecostal faith grew here. They met in the living rooms in the 1950s, and they were meeting on a Sunday evening and fellowshipping in people's living rooms. And that's what he did. That's where he went with them. And that fellowship that he joined eventually found its way into a church hall. It became the Church of God in Christ, Calvary Church of God in Christ. And that's where he stayed, and that's where he became a minister. He became a pastor in that church. And that is also where he met his wife of 65 years. 65, so if that hadn't happened to him, that, all of these things and the credit union that he founded all of these years ago, all those years later, wouldn't have happened, because he was inspired by the discrimination and the exclusion that he experienced to do something about it. Because the credit union, when he founded it, was definitely about providing money for churches. Because what happened was those fledgling churches, they outgrew their church halls. And in the late 60s and through the 1970s, when they needed to get mortgages to buy church buildings, because at the same time, many of the Anglican churches and Baptist churches, Methodist churches, their congregations were dwindling, and our Pentecostal congregations were flourishing. So they were selling their buildings, and we needed them. But when our leaders went to the bank for money to purchase those buildings, they were turned away. Right, and that's why he started the Pentecostal Credit Union, to make finances available to build a kingdom in terms of church buildings, purchasing church buildings, of which we have now purchased around 27.
27?
And also, 27 we've done so far, all across the country. And also for individuals who also were experiencing discrimination and exclusion in the financial sector by the mainstream banks and building societies at the time. And they were also able to get financial support from the credit union. And that's what we did. And we've grown and grown and grown and grown and grown till we became one of the financially strongest credit unions in the UK. And our services developed and transitioned into, all very similar services that you could get from your bank. Online banking, we do online banking. We have personal services in terms of, developing a better around, managing your accounts and things. And we felt, a community bank is what we really are, as most credit unions are, actually. I think all credit unions are community banks, but we really were operating in this space. And so we rebranded in September last year, and we are now the Pentecostal Community Bank.
Amazing. What a story. Talking about, transforming your pain into purpose, from being rejected, from being discriminated. Your founder went on, to create this Pentecostal movement and started the credit union. Amazing. I'm so inspired by that story and that journey. I don't know about you listening this morning. Have you ever been through a situation that seemed just like the question I asked this morning? What are you thankful for that didn't happen, didn't work out, but now in hindsight, you're like, thank you, God. I mean, in this case, what's the founder's name?
Reverend Carmel Jones, that's his name. Reverend Carmel Jones.
Yeah, Reverend Carmel Jones. Go on.
Yeah, in fact, what's interesting was, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, the Archbishop of Canterbury, that was then, Justin Welby, wrote to him apologising for the actions of the church in excluding him. He wrote to him and he apologised. But he wrote back to him and he said, listen, he'd forgiven the church a long time ago. And if they hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here. Our Pentecostal churches wouldn't have grown the way they've grown. He wouldn't have founded the Pentecostal Credit Union, and he wouldn't have met his wife.
Yeah,
because they did all of that That is what happened. It was an absolute blessing. It was supposed to happen that way. And this is a really important lesson in life, really.
Yeah.
You know, many things occur. We all have these experiences, all of us. Many things occur in our lives that we can really depress us and really impact our plans. You know, we have many plans and they don't go the way we want them to go. They go south or whatever. But actually, when you look back, you know, the important thing is to carry on, you know, is to reframe those plans, look again and do something differently, or look to what can inspire you from the experience. And then you will look back and say, you know, I'm really glad that happened.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't get that job. I'm glad I didn't get that job because that actually, I really wanted it. But what happened was when you find out this was a nightmare of a position, this was a nightmare of an organisation, I'm glad I didn't get there actually. I found that I'm glad I didn't do that and I am where I am now. You know, those kinds of stories that can tell you. And I think this story is exceptionally inspiring, really, in terms of the rejection he experienced. Because we actually say, the story we tell is that they told him not to come back, but 25 years later, he did go back to Raglan and he was buying their churches. He went back and he bought all of those churches.
Love it. Wow.
That's what he did.
Thank God that he wasn't bitter. Thank God that he saw an opportunity instead. For some person listening this morning, maybe a door has been closed on you and you're feeling rejected and blaming everyone else. Could you consider just looking for the opportunity in that rejection? That is my gratitude prompt for you this morning. What's one closed door you are now grateful for? You've just heard how Elaine shared. Oh my goodness, I'm blown away by that story of your founder. But yes, so now here we are. We started the journey as a credit union. Ann Pike says, out of challenges comes transformational change. Powerful, and I love that. Big Sister says, I'm grateful for the cool morning breeze this morning, the trees waving in the wind, the cooing of the doves over my head. I'm grateful for the beauty of nature all around me, the gift of a brand new day and the mercies of God, which are new every morning. It's Thankful Thursday. It's Throwback Thursday on Arise with Eloho. What are you thankful for this morning? What's one door that closed and you are now super grateful that it didn't work out? Okay, so we're now this community bank and we rebranded in 2024. And you've shared, what led to that evolution. But what has the process been since you shifted from just being a credit union to now a full-blown community bank? Is the bank accessible to everyone, or is it just for Pentecostals?
Yeah, it's so. So we are rebranded to a community bank, but we maintain the regulatory framework, and the regulatory and the operational framework of a credit union. So we are, we're as I said, we rebranded community bank because that's more about what we do, more about how the services that we operate. So actually, we retain the legal and regulatory framework of a credit union. So that means that to join us, because we are a membership organisation,
right? So
you need to join before you can get the benefits of what we do or what we provide. You need to be able to demonstrate an association with a Pentecostal church anywhere in the UK. So we operate throughout the whole of the UK. And so that's England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, I think it is, yeah. And so that's where we take our members from. And once you can demonstrate that, show that you'll be asked that at membership, you'll be asked about what church you attend regularly. You don't have to be a signed up member, or if you still do the right hand of fellowship. So lots of Pentecostal churches still do that, some don't. That's not necessary, because actually we know that most people who attend Pentecostal churches actually are not members, and some of them will attend the same church for 30 years, but not necessarily signed up. So you don't have to show that you are signed up, but you do need to show that you have attendance there. You do have to be able to say that. And then once that's the case, you can join. And Pentecostalism, as you know, I don't know if you know, is an extremely broad.
It is. So I'm just thinking here. Okay, Pentecostal. Who's Pentecostal? Who's not Pentecostal? Because some people say they're evangelical.
That's all in the definition, a very wide definition that we have of Pentecostalism. Really, and a lot of those will be evangelical churches. A lot of them will be charismatic churches. They may describe themselves as such, but they are Pentecostal. You don't have to have Pentecostal in your name, as you know, because Pentecostalism is an expression of worship. And there are Anglican churches that are Pentecostal. There are many Baptist churches that are Pentecostal, and would describe themselves as Pentecostal. So, so it's a very, very, very broad, very, very broad, space and definition, really.
Amazing. I'm sure we'll need to have a session on what is Pentecostal at this rate. But just kidding. If you have just joined the show, thank you for being here this morning. We're talking to Elaine Bowes, who is the head of marketing at the Pentecostal Community Bank. And if you were wondering how to be a part of the Pentecostal Community Bank, Elaine has just beautifully shared, you need to demonstrate that you attend a Pentecostal church. Aside showing that I attend a Pentecostal church, what other criteria do I need to become a member of the bank? Do you do any? Go on.
So it's just simple. All membership is done online now.
All right.
We are totally digitally enabled. I think that is, and so everything's online. That doesn't mean you can't phone up and speak to somebody, or you can't come into the office and see someone. But essentially, the best way that we can serve our members across the entire UK is through online banking. So you go online and you open an account. And what you need to have to open an account is there is one membership fee that you pay once and you never pay again.
Really?
And the membership fee to become a member is £10. So there's a £10 membership fee, and then you will need at least £25 to open your account. Now you can be much more than that. It doesn't matter. But whatever that first deposit is, it will need to include at least £25 plus a £10 membership fee. So that means it's a minimum of £35. A minimum of £35. But anything over that, is fine. And that's it. And so when you open an account,
easy peasy.
actually, it's all online, really easy to do. And when you open an account, what you do is, or what we encourage people to do, because we are about building community wealth. And because when you become a member, you become a shareholder, because it's a financial cooperative. So all the members own the bank, the community bank. Everybody has a share. Everybody has an equal share, and we encourage people then to save. That's the encouragement. So opening an account is really saying, or ideally saying, they can start saving. And we encourage people to save, whatever they want to save. The important thing about saving is that you do it regularly. And then when you want to borrow, you are able to borrow at very, very competitively low rates of interest. And we have a very unique approach to working with our members, our customers, in relation to borrowing, which banks don't do, but we do. And there are many other community banks and credit unions who have very similar approaches, but we certainly do because it's a very personal service.
Yeah.
So when you apply for a loan, we will do the standard credit check.
Yeah.
But we are not driven. We're not driven by the credit report.
Okay.
So that's not what drives us. We will look at that, but then the managers will have other considerations before declining. If in fact, the credit report comes back as a decline, or if they will look at the account, they will look at how the account's been run, what the money might be needed for, and depending on that, they will decide on the risk and whether or not they're prepared to take that risk, and how then they will structure any borrowing as a result of that.
Yeah.
So it's a very personal service, and our position when it comes to lending, the default position isn't no, not as it is with banks.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be no. If it comes back as decline, it'll be no. They won't have a conversation with you about that. They used to do many, 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 many years ago, but they don't do that anymore. But we do. So we provide a very hands-on, very personal, and a very caring service, which is one of the reasons why I think we have such loyal customers and such a high level of satisfaction, from our customers. Very, very high level of satisfaction.
Wow. Thank you for all you do, the Pentecostal Community Bank. I was going to ask you, so what makes you different from the big names on the high street? And then you've just answered beautifully well when you even say that you are for the people, by the people. So your default isn't, no, your credit score is not good, and no, but you go deeper than that and see, ways that you can help. Even if there are, negative reports and stuff like that. So thank you, Community Bank. So over the years, just hearing you talk about how you work and how you approach, over the years, what impact has the bank had in practical terms? Are there any milestones or community wins that you can share with us this morning that show your mission in action?
Well, I suppose we, formally, we have the Fair Banking Mark, which means that we have been acknowledged independently as a financial institution that really puts the customer at the heart of what we do, and that's in relation to the consumer duty that came about in 2023. So we kind of fulfill that in our approaches and everything that we do around that. So that's an important milestone. The other thing is that I did say that we have provided mortgages, commercial mortgages, for the purchase of, I think, about 26 churches.
Okay, you said 26. Yeah.
Across, I think it was 26 churches, something like that, across the UK. We have what other milestones are there that we've done? We have consistently achieve really very high satisfaction rates from our customers and our members. all the time and get loads and loads of accolades for what we do. We celebrated, as I said, we are 45 years old. We had a celebration at our 35th anniversary. And of course, the rebrand to a community bank from a credit union was probably the most important milestone in all our years, because that really, kind of epitomizes where we came to. That's for us. That was really, really important. We didn't take that decision lightly. It really does reflect who we are and where we're going. So it wasn't just, we're now just changing the name from a credit union to a community bank. No, we are operating in a way that we think banks should, working in communities and building communities and building community wealth, which is really important, and building community financial resilience. And of course, our community is our members. That's our community. Community is the members.
Amazing stuff. You did mention, just as you were speaking, and you mentioned it before, about building community wealth. By the way, congratulations on all of the milestones and 45 years. Wow. So big congratulations, and many more 45 years to come. You did mention about building community wealth. What does that look like?
Right. So I'll tell you practically how that works. The longer the pound circulates in the community, the stronger the community gets.
Can you say that? Can you say that again for someone who didn't get it the first time?
So the longer the pound, a pound, circulates in a community, and all the different ways it might circulate in the community, the stronger the community gets. That's economically. Right. So this is how credit unions work, and this is the reason why they build the strength of their community. So you join a credit union or a community bank, you put your money in and you start saving.
Right.
Yes? I put my money in and I start saving. Everybody puts their money in and they start saving. Then I need to borrow. So what I do is that money that has gone in and is invested in the community, I can have some of that money to meet my needs. And so the money is circulating in that way. Do you see that? It circulates and it circulates all the time. And then I pay the money back so that somebody else can have the money to borrow. That is how the money circulates in the community. And with community banks and credit unions, the community is just, for us, it's people who attend the Pentecostal churches throughout the whole of the UK. That's our community. And that's how we strengthen that community. The wealth that we have as a community bank doesn't belong, and this is really important, the wealth that we have doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to the board. It doesn't belong to a small group of shareholders, as it does to the bank. It belongs to everyone. So the fact that we are one of the wealthiest credit unions, pound for pound, in the country, we have what they call a capital to assets ratio of 23%. So we are extremely viable financially. That's not my money. That's not my fit. That is for everyone. That belongs to the community. Do you see what I'm saying? When you say we build the wealth, we build community wealth by ensuring that the money circulates for as long as it can within the community. And that is about that's about where you bank, that's about where you buy, that's where about all of those things. And of course, one of the things that we try and do as a purchaser is we support our entrepreneurs and our member businesses.
Right.
So we would buy from our member businesses where we can, and we support. What's really, really important about community wealth, the other essential thing for community wealth is not just the bank, but also businesses. You know, entrepreneurship and business ownership is absolutely key for building community wealth. And we have many, many, many of our members are entrepreneurs. We have corporate accounts, which also enables them to borrow for their businesses. And we provide the same terms and conditions for corporate lending as we do for personal lending. So we don't make lots and lots of money from business accounts as banks do. We don't do that because that is not in the interest of businesses that want to thrive in the community, and we want our businesses to thrive in the community. So we support them. So we also have programs and initiatives specifically to support, in this case, businesses. So we have a business hub. So our members can join a business hub where where they can meet, and we provide them with advice and support from very experienced and qualified people to help them in their business, because again, business ownership is an essential element of community, of building community wealth. So that's how we do it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's what it's about, really.
So
as
much.
well as working and supporting our junior savers.
Yeah.
We have a leadership development program for our junior savers. For our children, 11 to 18.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. We do provide financial education and things for them. That's the difference between us.
Wow.
That's the difference between a community bank.
Wow.
We reinvest in our members as well.
And that is so, so important. Wow, I feel like just giving a round of applause for the Pentecostal Community Bank now, adding value to their members, not just taking, but circulating. I love that you buy from, your members, whatever business that they have, you're reinvesting back in them.
Yeah.
That is just amazing and powerful. Wow. Elaine, it's just been an absolute pleasure having you this morning, sharing all about the Pentecostal Community Bank. And we know that the cost of living is rising. Yes, you've just shared beautifully how you support your members. Is there any other kind of support or service that the Pentecostal Community Bank offer to those who are struggling, who are overlooked, especially with the cost of living rising?
Yes. So one of the things that all credit unions actually are charged to do with the credit union legislation is to build really the education of their members, financial education. And that one, we take that very seriously. And we provide online, they are now online workshops in financial resilience and understanding various aspects. We do them in various aspects of your financial life. So our most recent workshop was looking at generational wealth,
right?
And kind of the kinds of things that people need to think about in terms of pensions and inheritance and inheritance tax and all of those sorts of things. So we did that. We've done that, and we've had many in just managing your credit, how you manage, why your credit report is important, and people don't actually realise what credit reports often are used for. They're not just. We know that when you go for a loan, people look at them, but your funders, your financiers will look at a credit report as you go for a loan, and people think that's all it's about, but it isn't. If there are certain jobs and requirements where an employer will look at your credit report to see whether or not They feel that you are reliable. And, immigration controls, we understand that they look at your credit report. So all of those sorts of things. So actually, your credit report is pretty important for lots and lots of reasons. Yeah. So we talk about why it is important to look after it, why your credit report is important, how you should look after it, and you should look after your credit report. It goes. It's one of those things that goes up and down and up and down. You take a loan, it'll go down. So it's not. You shouldn't really get anal about it. But in general, you do need to make sure that when you take a loan, you pay it back.
Yeah.
And that you don't take too many. That your lending is managed properly, and that those kinds of there are kind of key issues that you need to do around your credit report, making sure that the information is correct. And there are some things that will, in terms of credit, that will really, really destroy your credit. So if you do CCJs, for instance, capital judgment, bankruptcy, and things like something that's really, really bad as well. If you've got a lender and then you disappear, you move, and you don't pay your lender.
I know.
It's called something called the Gone Away Information Network game, and that stuff. Your credit report, because that comes up, no one's ever going to lend to you if you do things like that. There are things that you just need to think about and make sure, because in that case, in cases like that, your credit report is seen as a mark of your integrity. It isn't always, but that's how it's viewed. Whether you like it, and it's not something that you can make a choice about.
No.
It's not I can say, well, you know what, I don't think I'll have one of those. I don't like the sound of that. No, you will. As soon as you do things like take out a telephone, and you think, right, the clock started, there you are. There is a record of you in terms of your lending. You have no control over that. But what you can control is what goes in it.
Yeah. Wow.
So we have workshops on aspects like that, and then of course the normal things of budgeting and saving. But I think one of the most important things we cover in our workshop is your attitude. Your attitude to money, and because
that's
how you manage your finances will always just come down to what is my money mindset.
Yes.
That's the term that people use. What is the money mindset, and that does control actually how you're going to be about your money. So I can tell you. I can teach you how to budget easily, but if you are not in that space, you are not going to do it.
No. So I think
you might not understand all about doing it, but you won't do it if you're not. Your brain isn't there really.
Yeah, it's going back to the basics. Just teaching. I think everything starts in the mind, like you say.
Yes,
so it's getting the mindset right, and then all of the support and the offerings that you have will then work. But if your mindset is not in the right place, and you just keep going around the same circle, over and over and over again. Wow, Elaine, thank you so much. So for someone who's listening this morning and is really, we've talked a lot about credit score, how important it is. A lot of us didn't realize that and fell into, bad credit, and we're still paying. Some people have been refused mortgages, like you already said, jobs as well, because they have not better managed their credit. And especially for those who have just come into the country newly, people are not. I think now there's more education and information about that. But back in the day, you just come, there's lots of credit, and boom, 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 boom. So for someone who has gone through all of that and their credit is really, really, really bad, what would you advise them? Is it even affecting their mental health, affecting relationships and everything else? What's your advice?
Well, I think the first thing to remember is you can always fix it.
Right, I like
That's
that.
the first thing, So if you have a poor credit score now or poor credit report, yes, it will stay on there, for 6 years or so. However, you can improve it.
Right.
Over time, you can improve your credit report. So, yes, it's bad. And if you fall into these things happen to lots and lots and lots of people, there's lots of people who've been through that phase. But, your credit report doesn't really define you, Maybe people, because you get declined, and it's really depressing and disheartening when you know that actually you can't go there for much. But then you understand what that's about and you can fix it. It's temporary. Nothing's forever. That mark is not going to be there forever. So that's probably the most important thing to remember. Your credit report is actually not you. It's not actually really you. Of course, for some people it is, but really you have to say that actually there's more to you than your credit report. And you can actually you can fix it. It is important actually to make sure it's in good order. But you've got time to fix it. And as I said, it's one of those things. It goes up and it goes down. You can. I'm a bit anal about my credit report. Actually, I'm always checking. But but I am really. But the thing is, it's up and it's down, and then the points go up, and you think, oh, what was that about? And then you buy something. If you buy a house, it's going to plummet. If you buy a car, it's going to plummet. But you're not going to not buy your car or not buy a house because your credit report plummet is going down, because it will come back up.
Yeah, it will.
It will come back up, and you'll see it. And that's the way it is. So it fluctuates, but generally, you just need to keep it on. So, what is the most important learning from it? The most important learning is it's temporary. You can fix it, and it doesn't define you. It doesn't
define you. I think those are really, really powerful. It doesn't define you. You can fix it. It's temporary, and like Elaine rightly said, it goes up and it comes down. I remember back in 2015, 2016, my husband's credit report was like 900 and something, and he went for a mortgage. Boom, no. Why? Why? And so
you went for a mortgage. That's what. So just think, because you made a big purchase, and So, and to be honest with you, as lenders, we do need to a lender does need to see how you handle stuff.
True.
And that's the only if they don't know you, they won't know you, and you're going to them for a loan for the first time, they have to have some kind of reference point to decide whether or not you're a good risk. And so if you don't repay your loans, that's a really big red flag. But the other thing they might think is you've got too much credit. Some of them might think, well, actually, this is your income. You are paying off, but, you've got too much, and we don't think it's not responsible lending, and we are required to be responsible lenders. We're regulated bodies. We're regulated by the FCA and the PRA. We have responsibilities to lend properly and responsibly. And so if we think actually you can't really manage it, your income, is probably not. We don't want to put more on you than you can manage. So that might be another reason for being declined as well. You have to remember, it's not all just because you don't pay back. There are other reasons as well where a lender might decide not to lend. I think the important thing is, yes, it goes up and it goes down, and all of these things happen for lots of reasons. And if you're buying lots of things, if you're in a situation where you have a house, you have to spend a lot of money, you are borrowing to spend, then your credit report will reflect it. But again, as it is, it's all about how you handle that borrowing. How do you handle those credit cards and things like that? Are you doing the best for yourself, really, in terms of your credit? If you are having credit cards with high interest rates, and likely it might be high interest rates because your credit report isn't great. So they won't lend it. You don't get the best rate.
Wow.
And you handle them properly. It's credit cards aren't a bad thing in
it's just how you handle them
It's
and
about how you manage them.
How many you take at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Some of these things aren't bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you handle it. And the best thing around credit cards is actually, pay it back before you get the interest.
Yeah.
Use it if you have to use it. Use it for those few weeks that you don't have to pay any interest and pay it back.
And then pay it back.
If you can do that, and if you can't pay it back, if you for whatever reason can't, make sure that you never use more than 30% of your available credit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not never max out your card.
Yeah.
And make sure you're doing that, and then and stop. When you see that it's stop and repay, pay more. Never pay the minimum. Always pay more than the minimum when you're paying it back, so that you pay down. Pay down that credit, and then when you've paid it off, put the card down. Put it down. I would always keep the card, because that helps your credit score. If you have a lot of available credit, you're not using it, but it's there. That's good for your score. So it's all about discipline. So keep the card and have all that credit available. Just don't use it. Or use it very, very intermittently. But keep it, because having available credit is good for your credit score. You don't have to cut them up and give them all away unless you really, really, really cut it.
But sometimes you just want to give it all away. I don't want any of it anymore.
And sometimes for some people that might be it, but actually this is all about discipline. Really, it's a good thing to learn how to manage your money. That's what we're all about, actually. All at CCB, our financial resilience education and training is actually about that. We don't say to people, you mustn't have loans, you mustn't do this. We say to people, understand how to manage it to your advantage. That's what we say. We want people to save so that they don't need to borrow. Ultimately, that's the best thing. But let me tell you something. If I need to buy a house, I'm not going to be able to save up enough money to do it. I am going to have to borrow. There is going to be some borrowing that is necessary. And I may be growing a family and I'm saving. But I've got a family, I have a house, I have a mortgage. And once you have a house, you're always going to have problems. You never know when that roof is going to start leaking. You never know when your washing machine is going to stop working. You never know when the boiler stops working.
That's happened to me in January this year.
It happens to all of us. Your boiler. I just had to buy a new boiler. My boiler just cost me £2,500
I know.
to put in a new boiler. Right? Okay, I didn't expect that. That just happened. It didn't tell me it was going. It just stopped. So there are things like that you sometimes you need to borrow for. Sometimes you do need to. Then you need to have the provision. You need to have the ability to borrow because you've got good credit and you pay that back. As you borrow as cheaply as you can.
Yep.
And you pay back as quickly as you can. That's it. So get the best interest rate and pay it down as soon as you can if you have to borrow.
So much lessons from the show. I feel like we've just had a masterclass from Elaine.